Gull is jamming. Welcome
Yeah.
to the Branching Out podcast. My name is Celine Whitetail.
And I'm Gull the Cactus. This is Branching Out, the podcast where we grow in knowledge together. This week our topic is Bridgerton.
Yep, it's Bridgerton. So, usually what Gull and I would do is, she's the much more well-researched, one of the two of us. And she would usually go into an explanation as to what Bridgerton is, because she's actually watched the show. I have not. But instead, I'm going to just go straight into my topic, because I decided to do something completely unhinged. I know nothing about Bridgerton. Not a single thing. Gull kind of I do know one thing. Gull kind of knows that if I don't latch onto an interest that she mentions once, she knows not to push it, or else I might decide to hate it forever out of pure spite and for no other reason. And when going into this research topic, I was like, is this that one period drama she tried to make me watch one time and I said I would, she streamed it, and then I completely ignored it because I do that all the time? Was it that one where there was this one couple who every fucking time I happened to look over at my other monitor to see if she was still screen sharing, they would be having sex? The answer is yes.
Probably.
It's that show. So that's all I know. There's a biracial couple, and I think she forces him to have a child, or tries to, that he doesn't want by being on top, so she'd make him finish inside her. That's all I know. So, knowing that, I decided how I was going to do this research topic was that I was going to watch 1 to 2 hours of Bridgerton AMVs on YouTube, and then I'm going to tell you what I think the plot is.
Just AMV. Break off a piece of that definition of what that is if people don't know.
It usually stands for anime music video, but obviously this isn't an anime. Essentially, it's just like a fan edit of scenes from the show involving either a particular ship or a season or whatever, backed by music. And I kind of was going to go into that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I didn't go in depth as to what it was. But spoiler alert, I'm just going to be a hater for the next 20 minutes because I don't think I would like this show if I was going to watch it. The first thing that I did was I typed in Bridgerton AMVs and sorted by view count. And the very first thing that I learned was that Simon and Daphne, or the couple I did know about, and two, they have the most videos, and people love to make videos about them, specifically to Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift. The top 5 has like 3 of them. It's crazy. The second is a couple named Anthony and Kate. And there was an Eloise and Sir Philip, and Penelope and Colin. As far as I know, based on titles alone, those are the 8 characters and nobody else exists in the show. Now, I will preface this with some shows do better at this than others. Some artists can make a really, really boring show look amazing with editing. I did not experience that with Bridgerton. I think I know just how interesting this show is from the videos that I watched. I'll let you decide what I mean by that. But one thing about the AMV community is, boy, do they love to latch on to some of the most boring characters and love them to death, which I think is the case with Bridgerton. Daphne and Simon are obviously the most shipped characters, but I watched like 10 videos of them. And this show has 3 seasons, but every video I watched was just the same like 3 scenes between them. They're either dancing, confessing in the rain, or fucking in the rain. That's it. That's all there is. And when this kind of thing happens, it usually means that either the show writes them really weakly and they really don't have a lot of like content to use for the two of them, or it isn't the focus of the show, which I don't think is true. I think this show is just about relationships from what I watched. And the fans love them for unknown reasons to me. This usually happens with male characters that are shipped together by the community but have no actual real connection to each other in the show, so they latch on to the same 3 scenes they have together. I'm looking at you, Steric. That's right. No one's safe today. This is the plot of Bridgerton based on what I watched. Daphne and Simon bump into each other at a party. She was already there with some other guy, but they give each other fuck me eyes immediately. There's another party that they go to the party together, and everyone is looking at them like, what are they doing here together? Man, is there a lot of dancing and parties in the show. I'm pretty sure that's all the show is about. There's some scandalous premarital touching, more dancing. She gets off to him licking a spoon, like, okay. Oh look, another party and premarital touching. She seems really repressed. They absolutely got together purely on sexual attraction alone, and they're gonna break up or cheat on each other in the next 10 years. Literally, the first several videos I watched, it was just ballrooms. I'm convinced that nothing else happens in the show. There's this one scene of him being shirtless in what looks like a prehistoric wrestling ring, so maybe he does that, or he likes wrestling, or watches it. There's a scene of him in a stagecoach, which I have to imagine is with his mom, and they're probably having a conversation about how he shouldn't be going for her, because I can absolutely see the show never having anything but plot lines involving this romance for the two of them. There was a quick scene of her touching a wound on his head, but how did he get it? He doesn't do anything. Did he trip when he was on his way to go to another dance recital? I couldn't tell you because there's no evidence of him doing anything. I think he rode a horse once. Maybe he fell off the horse. Daphne and Simon just seem to be the couple who got married and had a baby way too young and just become boring. I don't see why everyone likes them. I mean, they're both, like, attractive people, but I don't think they're particularly cute together or anything. I'll be honest, after 5 videos, I couldn't come to a consensus as to the story of Daphne and Simon other than they like to dance with each other a lot.
I will say, one of your suppositions was incredibly correct.
Which one? I made so many.
I'm writing down notes of things that, like, I wanted to talk about based on what you have said. Ballrooms and dancing, this is basically all it is, was one of the things you said. Yes! Because this show is about Regency England in an alternate history and focusing on the nobility and the gentry who every year come to the town, London, for the season, which is, the marriage market and getting young marriageable ladies married to young marriageable men. And, like, you may basically just continuing the, like, nobility system and whatever. And, like, if there's a lot of rules related to it, etc., etc. So, yes, it is ballrooms and dancing all the time, but that's on purpose because that is, like, what they're trying to do. So Daphne and Simon, the Duke of Hastings, get together. At first, it's a fake dating scheme because he doesn't want to get married. And she is nervous about getting married, but also wants to seem more eligible on the marriage market and isn't really sure what to do because she is, I think, 16? 17? I can't remember how old her character is supposed to be at the time of her first season. And so they are fake dating. And by that, I mean, like, fake courting. They are, pretending to be courting. And over the course of that, they get to know each other a lot better. And it's funny you said, like, they get together on the basis of sexual attraction and nothing else, because while, yes, they have an immense amount of sexual attraction and they act on that very much in the later half of the season, they have a lot of scenes of them talking, which are probably not very good for AMVs, that are just, like, them, like, walking around through parks talking and, like, relating to each other on, like, a more personal level. And
well, To interrupt you, that is actually usually that's funny because a lot of AMVs will take, instead of actual songs, we'll take instrumentals and we'll just, and this actually happened a lot with Anthony and Kate, of like them talking to each other. You'll get the scenes with the dialogue to get context, which is why when I go over Anthony and Kate's story, I feel like I actually know what's happening. Whereas with Daphne and Simon, none of the videos I watched involved any talking. So, like, you say that, oh, AMVs of them sitting and talking or walking and talking aren't good. For AMVs, that's absolutely not true.
I am incorrect then. But I will say the difference between Kate and Anthony and Simon and Daphne is that, like, I think the conversations that Simon and Daphne have are longer and less, like, snappy. And I don't mean that, like, I think actually season
clippable.
2 is more, there's more chemistry between the two main characters. And I loved season 2. I thought it was fucking amazing. And I thought that the couple together was great. But I think the interactions they have are more like charged and clippable, as you said. Whereas, like, I don't think that like the like conversations you would have with Daphne and Simon would be as clippable.
So do the seasons go but like focus on a specific couple?
Yes, because they are all part of the Bridgerton family. Daphne is a Bridgerton.
I didn't want you to say that, but I figured it out through Anthony and Kate's stories that I'm pretty sure that Daphne and Anthony are siblings, I think.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so it's all about this one family in London. And each season is about different members of their family, like, you know, falling in love and doing dumb things. You mentioned him talking to his mother. That's actually not his mother, and that's a very big plot point. That's Lady Danbury. She is, I think, if she's not literally his godmother, she is figuratively his godmother. Like, she was very close with his parents, especially his mother, before she died, and she died in childbirth. And his father put him through hell as a child as a result of his mother dying.
Never saw a single scene of him and his father together. Not one.
Well, his father is very much not in the show. He's like used more as a plot device.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely some flashbacks, but
didn't see
not
a single
too
one.
many of them. Yeah. And so a lot of his trauma comes from the fact that, like, his father was so horrible to him and, like, was so obsessed with his family being as perfect as possible because they are Black and had only recently been given noble titles. And I'll get more into what that all is about in my section.
I'll mention it very briefly and probably very, like, heavy-handed or heavy-footed.
He had essentially sworn to his father on his father's deathbed that he would never sire children and that his family line would die out with him because his father was so shitty to him. And so the entire season is basically him trying not to fall in love with Daphne, failing, falling in love with her, them getting married, and then him not wanting to have children because he swore that he wouldn't. And, like, you covered this a little bit at the very top. There was a lot of controversy about the fact that, like, Daphne held him down, basically, and had him finish inside of her. I don't know if that was too explicit for me to say on YouTube, but I just said it!
I said it at the top of the show, so that's what happened. It's the only part I remember.
Not a huge amount is made of it in show to deal with, you know, the fact that that is a form of assault that occurred. Because they focus primarily on, like, the reason he doesn't want to have kids and ultimately come to the decision that he would have kids with Daphne because he loves her, and sometimes moving on is more important than holding on to parts of the past, especially if you were doing it out of spite and you could do something out of love. And so it's a little sloppy, I will say, because, like, that fucking sucks. Like, that is not a good situation.
You could have had the realization come without the assault occurring, I feel like.
Yeah,
Because
but
it just
then
makes
it's
her
not
look shitty.
dramatic. Yeah,
Whatever.
it does make her look shitty. But yeah, it's not great. And that's one of the reasons I think why I like season 2 better, because there isn't that level of like assault that happens in the main relationship. But also, let's see what else. Wrestling was not a big deal. It was boxing, actually.
I saw it once, but it kept happening, so I was like, maybe this is
Yeah.
important.
He and one of his friends, Will, who becomes more important in later seasons, have this boxing thing that they do, and he uses it to like Simon uses it to get out a lot of his frustrations, and it's intercut with like trying to get over like the trauma of his childhood and stuff like that. And the other thing I was going to say, the reason why there are so few scenes involving Daphne and Hastings is because they are essentially not in seasons 2 and 3. Like, Daphne is in season 2 sparingly, with spoilers, their child that they end up having.
Never saw it. You would think you'd see that in a video about, like, I never saw it.
Yeah, I don't think I saw her at all. I haven't finished season 3, but I don't think I've seen her. I can't, if I have, it's been very, very sparingly. Maybe like one scene or something, maybe two. But the reason being, I think, is that the actor, oh fuck, what's his name? The actor who plays Simon was in the D&D movie and like is doing other things, and so he had other things to be doing. And yeah, of course, good for him. Let me see if I can oh god, Regis Jean Page. Fuck, I don't know how to. I am so sorry to this actor. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's
Hold on, let me take a stab at it. Simon Hastings. I think it's like just Jean Page.
Maybe. I'm horrible with like anything that is remotely French sounding, so my apologies. I was trying to give this man his due, and I fucking didn't do it.
Hold on.
We are looking at how to pronounce Reggae Jean.
It's Reggae Jean Page.
Reggae Jean Page. Okay. Apologies for butchering your name. He was like doing other things, and so he wasn't there for production. And like production for this show has been famously like weird because it was a COVID show.
Oh, we love COVID shows.
We love COVID shows.
So honestly,
yes,
I'm done talking about Simon and Daphne. I didn't like them based on their edit.
Talk about Anthony and Kate, the goats.
Yeah, I definitely. It felt like they had an actual plot. So again, I feel like I'm gonna fuck this whole thing up. But based on what I watched, so these are my notes. Okay, Anthony and Kate. Okay, so his last name is Bridgerton. Is the show about him? Are Anthony and Daphne brother and sister? They're talking to each other in a library and she obviously knows him, but they aren't trying to fuck. I don't think I ever saw him in any of the Daphne and Simon videos, but she's all over this video and being sisterly. Okay, I've decided they're siblings. More dancing. Oh shit, he's getting married to her sister, and they have a moment with a bracelet at the wedding. He's chasing her down in the rain, and the horse bucks her off, and he's having dreams about them getting married. I think she's dead. Okay, so I think their story is that he was meant to marry her sister from the start, but he falls in love with her instead, and she falls in love with him but feels guilty for going behind her sister's back. And there's something dramatic involving the rain, and then she dies. That's their story. She's very pretty, and I think I like them better. They're just a cuter couple. How'd I do?
Pretty good. She doesn't die.
Oh, of course not. That would be interesting.
It's actually really good, and I feel like all the emotional beats of this season are great. And actually, I think you would enjoy the second season a lot more than the first season, because as I was reading through different articles, like somebody described the first season as being sexual without being erotic, but the second season as being erotic without being too sexual. Because there are sex scenes in the second season, but when they happen, they're super meaningful. They happen later in the season, and they are also really like hot as fuck because like the longing and the like they can't be together aspect was played perfectly until it happened and they got together. So
And then it was
Yeah.
ruined.
well, no, then it kept just being hot because they have really good chemistry.
Mm.
Which this is crazy. But I did not know that what is his name? His name is Jonathan Bailey. We recently learned in a completely different video that we were watching. I don't even remember what video we were watching, but it was a deep dive on Ariana Grande and her relationship history. We learned that Jonathan Bailey is gay, like in real life, and I did not know that. And I wouldn't have known that based on his performance because the amount of chemistry he has with the actress who plays Kate, whose name is Simone Ashley, who is honestly one of the most gorgeous women in existence. Like, oh my god. And like she just plays everything so great in season 2. Ugh. Like I'm not somebody to simp over straight couples. So like these two are special. But yeah, anyway, I didn't realize that like the actor was gay because like they had such legitimate chemistry as the straight couple on the show. Dang, it works. A couple things. The Regency period takes place in the early 1800s. You said 1700s, but that's okay.
I just guessed. I know nothing about
You were
history.
pretty close in terms of all of the arc of history. The reason why there are two prominent Black families is actually there are a couple more than that, but not too many. Is because this the show, not the books that the show is based on, but the show itself is part of the like Shondaland family of products, so Shonda Rhimes, and they wanted to make a period
Ooh.
piece that was more accessible to more people, and they made it an alternate history wherein Queen Charlotte, who was probably pretty erroneously, and like this was probably played to like throw her legitimacy and history like into a bad light in real life, but there were like accusations that she had African heritage in like the 1940s, and they took that like thing that existed in real life that was like probably bullshit and also like intended to be slanderous and made it something that could spark diversity in a setting that was actually historically not diverse at all. And I understand why they did that because Shonda Rhimes, famously Black, famously like promoting more diverse shows on both cable and like now internet TV, and once like female-led, people of color-led shows. I can understand why they would do that and take that little bit, that little grain of something that happened in history and like turn it on its head to be something that is like more modern than it would be traditionally. And also the music you commented on, all of the music in the show, or at least most of the music in the show, is like modern pop songs turned into like these instrumental like violin orchestral songs, and like Wildest Dreams is one of the songs that was used in the first season, so that's absolutely why like that was one of the main AMVs. So they do meet while running on a horse. This happens at the very beginning of the season. Anthony's having like angst because he's like, I don't know if I want to get married and get tied down and do my responsibilities. He feels so much stress because his father died when they were younger, and it comes to be found out that he was actually there, like they were in the garden and his father got stung by a bee, and it turned out that he was allergic to bees and he fucking died. It was horrible. Like they do show a flashback of this scene, and like I can't remember if this is literally said or if this is just something that is like very figuratively impressed upon him. But like one of the things that Antony has is his father's watch, and he's constantly looking at the watch throughout the season, and he feels like he's running out of time to be the man he's supposed to be, that his father wanted him to be. And like I can't remember if it was literally said that he is supposed to be the one who is like the man of the Bridgerton family now while his father is dying, or if that's just something that he like realized and felt while it was happening. But anyway, there's a lot of trauma there. So he is literally trying to run away from his figurative problem of like being responsible when he's not sure what he wants from his life. And he is on this horse in like the very early morning, and there's another rider who is like cloaked and on a horse, and he chases after this person, and they have this race through the fields, and it turns out it's Kate, and he doesn't know who she is at this point, and she doesn't. I can't remember if he introduces who he is to her then, but that's the first time they meet, and they have this really charged conversation, and they are like, interest in each other is peaked then. And that's before he has met her family. That's before he has met Edwina, her sister, who he is going to become engaged to. That's before any of that happens. They already had this connection. And like, she is the adopted daughter of Edwina's mother, because they share a father who was the man that Edwina's mother had run away from court to go be with. He had a daughter from a previous marriage. She took her in, and Kate and Edwina were raised as sisters, like full sisters, like they love each other. They're, you know, all in on family. But because she is not, her mother was common born and like also Indian, from India, like there's no indication that she will be part of the season, because she is not like of the nobility in the same way that her sister is because of her birth. And so Edwina is like named the diamond of the season, which Daphne was in the first season. We completely glossed over that. But basically, Queen Charlotte names the most eligible member of society and the lady that everyone should be interested in courting. And like she does this because she believes that she can pick who is going to be the most successful in a season. And it's kind of usually a self-fulfilling prophecy, because like everyone's going to go after the lady that, you know, the queen has said is going to be the best. But, you know, it kind of goes sideways this time, because Edwina is the diamond, and Anthony had told his family, well, I'm obviously going to pick the diamond of the season because I want the best for our family. Like, I have to do my duty. And so he is torn between doing his duty and, you know, this passion he feels for Kate and this connection that he obviously feels for her. And she is torn between the connection she feels for him and wanting her sister to be happy. And her sister is feeling so much stress because they basically don't have any money, and her mother's family back in England had disowned them essentially when she ran away, and is willing to re-inherit them and also take care of her mother and Kate if Edwina comes back, meets them, is part of the family again, and marries into English society properly. And so this is a deal that Kate and her mother, I think her mother, know about, but Edwina doesn't. And so Edwina's like playing by these rules she doesn't know exist until she does learn that they exist, and then she's all upset. And yeah, so basically, did you see something like involving a bee and them holding hands over her heart, Kate's heart, in a garden?
There was a scene of them with the heart thing. Never saw anything about bees, or if there was, I didn't register it as important.
Gotcha. Well, what happens is she gets stung by a bee, and he has a fucking panic attack because he thinks that she's going to die like his father did. And she grabs his hand and like puts it over her heart to see, like, see, still beating. I'm okay. We're okay. And like they calm down from his panic attack together, and like they kiss, I think, or they almost kiss. I can't remember. But yeah, they do eventually get together, but it's really messy because, like, you know, Edwina realizes that they love each other, and so she stops the wedding, and she's very upset. And they come to basically, I don't remember how it resolves. I think the queen is involved in some way, but basically, Edwina and Kate finally reconcile, and Anthony and Kate do get married. And it's just, you know, they had a connection, especially because there's a whole sequence in the middle of the season where they go to like play croquet. Is that the one where you hit the balls through the hoops?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's either that or cricket.
I've played it before. I just can't fucking remember what it's called. But anyway, they
and
play
I
it.
think
And
cricket involves a bat, so I think it's croquet.
Yeah, this is the lawn game. Yeah, they
Don't ask me. I'm not rich enough to know what these sports are.
They play croquet with the Bridgertons, and like Edwina doesn't get the competitiveness, and she's kind of like feels left out. But Kate is super competitive and like fighting with Anthony for like winning, and she takes the croquet mallet that he usually takes, and it's a big thing, and they're all like, ooh, and he's like, fine, it's fine, I can use this one and still win. He doesn't. Kate wins. But yeah, and so like it was just like this thing over the course of the season where she fit in with his life in a way that Edwina didn't. But Edwina and Anthony both felt like they were supposed to be together because all of these external people were telling them they should. Whereas he actually fell in with Kate. And Edwina at the very end of the season, like, is introduced to the queen's nephew, who was in a previous season, who was like, I can't remember if he's a Swedish prince or like he's some sort of
Is he
prince
blonde?
from somewhere. He is blonde.
Does Daphne and him have like a thing at the start?
Yeah,
Is
for
it
like
somebody
a
else?
hot second. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
He was always featured as like there was like always like them, you know, him kneeling in front of her and
Yeah.
fucking other guy Simon looking all like,
Boo.
So.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
I knew there were only like 10 characters in this show.
there are slightly more than 10 characters, and it's so
I'm
funny
unconvinced.
because
The funny thing is, sorry to cut you off, is that I didn't know that Kate had a sister until the like dropping the bracelet on the ground scene. And in all the videos I watched, she's never brought up her relationship with her sister, never mentioned. Didn't know she had a sister. I just saw
which
that
is
out on my
crazy
own.
because like the relationship between the two of them is so important and integral to the season. But I understand if you're like focusing just on a relationship in an AMV, presumably your target audience has already watched the show.
Not
Unlike
me.
you. So. And you're getting into Penelope and Colin territory with season 3. I have not finished watching season 3.
Trust me. Wait, am I about to spoil this for you then?
What?
I don't know. I don't know what you know. So I'll just tell you what I know. I didn't really watch anything with Penelope and Colin specifically because I mostly just caught onto some other things. Like, there's another video involving a seemingly gay hand to potentially the queen, but it's someone of wealth. And I don't remember his name, but he's an older gentleman. And he never got married because he had a crush on a guy who was blonde and also royal. So, like, my notes were lots of inclusion in a show where there really shouldn't be. But now that I understand that it's alternate universe, I guess it makes sense. And there's a girl named Penelope who is originating the Gossip Girl columns in the 1700s. Like with straight up voiceover reading and everything. And that I think Penelope, if I watched this show, would probably be my favorite character. I didn't realize that they were like season specific. So you're right, I probably wouldn't have liked season 1 at all because I don't like Simon and Daphne even a little bit. I think I like Anthony and Kate. I think they probably had an interesting story. I think Penelope probably, has the most interesting story. Because it seems to be one that isn't about romance, but maybe I'm wrong. She seems to be like a secondary character or like a background character who's pissed that she's a background character, so she talks shit about everyone because nobody notices her because she's not. It's probably like a fucking commentary about how she isn't traditionally beautiful, so nobody pays attention to her. So she's able to like get all the deets on everyone because she's a quote unquote wallflower. And nobody pays any attention to her. So everybody talks shit around her, and she's able to grab all the details and then write about it in a gossip column that everybody reads, so she's like secretly famous. Also, I think Colin is the hottest guy on the show. Yeah. Overall, this show looks like super high drama with very little action, or the action isn't revolving around the ships. Not that it has to be. But I don't think it's the kind of show for me, based on what I've seen. So, what do you have on season 3? What was I right about my guesses?
I don't know what you're talking about like the guy
Hold
who was
on.
close to the queen.
He's like an older hand. What's his name? It's like Reginald or something. His name was it was Brimsley and Reynolds.
That's the guy who like is her attendant, her like whatever.
Yeah, that's what I said.
His butler, yeah, her butler.
Yeah, no, I guess the whole thing was like, Brimsley, have you ever been married? And he's like, no, who would ever settle down with someone like me? And there's like there's like a flashback of how when he was young, there was a blonde guy, and the whole thing was like, well, of course nobody cares about you. I'm more important than you. And then there's like a scene where they like almost touch hands, but he pulls his hand away, the blonde guy, and like it's kind of like implied that there was like unrequited love because he was gay and the other guy was straight, maybe? Possibly, I don't know. Gull's like, I have no idea what you're fucking talking about. I'm pretty sure you made this whole thing up.
I haven't seen the Queen Charlotte. There's a spin-off, Queen Charlotte. I haven't seen that. But yes, you were right about Penelope being Lady Whistledown, which is so funny. Like it took this long in the AMVs for you to understand. This is like a core conceit of the show. Like the underpinning of the entire show is Julie Andrews doing this narrator overarching narration of the Lady Whistledown periodical that comes out at least weekly, sometimes more often than that. And she is the talk of the town because she knows all of the gossip, and she is able to comment on all of the scandalous happenings and all of the rumors, and she seems to know everything and be everywhere. And this is, in fact, Penelope. You were right. It's because she's a wallflower. It's because she's overlooked because she's not as quote unquote like traditionally like pretty as some of the other characters or whatever. I don't know. I think that in season 3, when they give her glow up, like it's very obvious that Nicola Coughlan, who is the actress, is beautiful. So like, you know, I think they were doing her a disservice in the first and second season, making her look dowdy as opposed to her just never being pretty and then getting a glow up. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that in the AMV that I watched, the quote unquote glow up, which I think is the scene where she walks out in the fucking like peacock black and green dress.
Yeah.
She doesn't look any different than what she usually looks like. Like,
Her hair's kind of different. And her boobs are more together. That's about it.
I didn't see it as a glow up. Nothing about her changed. She looks just as pretty as she does in that shot as she does in every other shot I saw her in. Like, it was really kind of annoying that we got another character that was like, oh, nobody pays attention to her because she's slightly chubby. And it's like, okay, that's like, I'm so over that as a plot point to be like, oh yeah, she's not traditionally pretty, which is just code for she's not 100 pounds like every other girl is in the show or less. And it's like, oh, really, that's all you could do? Because she's gorgeous, just like all the other women on that show. She's just that's the only thing that's different about her. She has these beautiful blue eyes and she's very striking to look at, but it's like, what's wrong with her? Oh, she's chubby. Okay, nobody likes her. And it's like, I get that we're in alternate 1700s, but if you actually did your fucking research, like, fat was in back then because it meant that you were rich. Like, richer women were heavier back in like the 14 to 1700s because they could eat when nobody else could. So, like, being heavier was in, so your point's invalid and your show's stupid.
Also, the other thing you said was that Colin is the hottest guy in the show, which I don't think you would agree if you heard him talk. Not because his voice is weird, just because I think he sounds like a dumbass most of the time he talks.
Fair enough. I mean, I think they all kind of
I
sound
don't
the
find
same.
him particularly hot, but
I think he looked the best in like stills and quick scenes. He was my favorite. But I'll be honest, if you had put him and Anthony and put 2 scenes of them back to back, I'd have said they were the same person. Like,
oh my god, they have another brother who you would also think is the same person. They did a really good job at casting people who looked enough alike that you could think that they were siblings. Because there were times where I was like, wait, why is this brother doing this? And I'd be like, oh, that's Benedict, that's not Colin, in the first first 1 or 2 season 1 or 2. Like I legitimately got them mixed up. And you, who famously can't tell people who look a little bit the same apart, would think that all 3 of them were the same fucking character.
if you have the same skin tone and the same hair color, you're the same person to me as everybody else with that. So the fact that they're all white with like brown hair, I've got no
And
chance.
basically the same haircut.
Yeah. I've got no shot.
Yeah, it's the Bridgerton brothers really do look a lot alike, and it's like, oh shit, I'm not sure which one you are. But yeah, I think overall you did a really good job at guessing what the show was about without knowing what the show was about.
Thanks. I'm a mastermind at picking out details from music videos, I guess.
Let's see. And just as a little bit of context, we're doing this backwards, but like as a little bit of context, Bridgerton, American historical romance TV series created by Chris Van Dusen for Netflix, based on a book series by Julia Quinn. It's a Shondaland product, as I've said before. So like Shonda Rhimes, who famously did Grey's Anatomy and like How to Get Away with Murder and like a bunch of other shows.
I asked who she was when you brought her up, but you didn't hear me and kept going. So I was like, I'll circle back around to it eventually. So I was like, Shonda Rhimes, I don't know who that is. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know who that is too. No, it's okay. I get Grey's Anatomy, I get it.
She's really famous in the last apparently Shondaland was founded in 2005. But Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, which was Grey's Anatomy spinoff, Off the Map, which I don't know what that is. How to Get Away with Murder, which was super famous. The Catch, Still Star-Crossed, For the People, Station 19, Bridgerton, Inventing Anna, and Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. Those are all the Shondaland shows.
I've only heard of Grey's Anatomy.
The first season debuted on Christmas 2020. The second season premiered on March 25th, 2022. And the third season premiered this year on my birthday, May 16th, and June 13th, 2024, respectively, in 2 parts. Season was renewed for a 4th season, or the series was renewed for a 4th season in April 2021, so there will be at least 1 more season. And then there was also Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, which was a spin-off series focused on young Queen Charlotte in May 2023. So it's been kind of, incrementally coming out, which is typical of, a Netflix kind of show, but also I think impacted by the pandemic and also, the actors doing other things. It was pretty critically well received. It had gotten, some Emmys and stuff, or nominations at least, I'd say 2 Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Awards, which is that the Primetime Emmys? Is that the real Emmys? I know there's other noms at the Emmys, Screen Actors Guild Awards, Satellite Awards, and NAACP Image Awards. The score earned a Grammy nom for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. So that's cool. It's about a Regency era family of 8 close-knit siblings. They are named alphabetically because that's what their parents wanted to do. So it's Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth.
I see. I do know of Eloise because I did see a video with her name in it. Didn't know that there were 4 other siblings other than those 3. I didn't know Eloise was a sibling. I didn't know Colin was either.
Eloise is best friends with Penelope, so that's mostly the context you see her in the first 3 seasons.
I did see a video of Penelope and Eloise with Bad Blood, because apparently Penelope told some state secrets, and now she married each other. That's all I know.
Yeah. And then Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth are like the younger ones. Francesca has her first season in first debut at the season in season 3. She was at like abroad, and well, not abroad because she was still in the same fucking country, but she was in Bath, in a different town with like family, I guess, for the beginning of the show. I don't know. Basically, the show has 3 real themes running through it, which are like gender, race, and like literature. And like I guess literature could also be considered like modernization, because you have Lady Whistledown, which is like the undercurrent of everything, and Penelope is influenced by Eloise, and Eloise is like uninterested in marrying and wants to be like politically and philosophically motivated and like intellectual, and she wants women to vote, and she wants women to be able to have a place in society more than just getting married off as cattle and whatever. And that is like a tension there, because that's not what their society wants for them. And obviously, I didn't really touch on this very much, but race is talked about more in season 1. There's a little bit of it in season 2 involving the fact that like Kate and Edwina are half Indian, but it's not really super touched on then. But part of the reason that the Duke of Hastings' father was so intense was because he felt an immense amount of pressure, being like the first generation of black nobility in this alternate era of England, that they had to be perfect, they had to be above reproach, and they had to have the best reputation of any family, because they were raised to that position instead of being born into that position. And so, it's discussed a little bit that like the king, as a result of marrying Queen Charlotte, who is black in this version, had named some black families. I don't know if it was, I haven't watched Queen Charlotte, so I don't know if it was just like men who then married women, or if it was like already married individuals, and so therefore families that were raised to nobility. I'm not quite sure. And that's my fault for not doing additional research or watching that show yet. But that was part of it. And there is obvious tension there, because there are gonna still be some people who look with suspicion on these people who were raised to nobility as opposed to being born to nobility. It doesn't get brought up much because Queen Charlotte is still alive and is living and is very much the most important figure in this like Regency England. It's just not going to be something that people get too racist about in show, because like, why would you do that if the most powerful person is a woman who is black? Like, that's signing your own death warrant, basically. But there are plenty of instances of like that tension, and the tension between like men and women, and like the gender disparities that are talked about, if not dealt with. Like, there are passing plots that do and don't deal with it, and then you have everyone reading this little gossip rag, but commenting on the fact that Lady Whistledown is a really good piece of writing. Like, periodicals weren't necessarily if they were of the gossipy nature, weren't necessarily like stellar writing, but like it's talked about repeatedly that Penelope is a really good writer, even if people don't know it's Penelope who's doing the writing. So it's cool. That's kind of my overview of the show, which I would have done at the top if we hadn't done this in a different way. And then the other thing I was going to talk about is this article that I had found from The Guardian about how Bridgerton's real-life Lady Whistledown scandalized 18th century society. So apparently there was like a real-life equivalent to Lady Whistledown. There was a female writer who had a gossip sheet in 18th century London, and her name was Eliza Haywood. The periodical was called The Parrot, and it was first published in 1746. And it has a mocking kind of tone, She chose the parrot because it was a symbol of a creature that has been like taken from its home, like, you know, in the East Indies, and caged and shipped all over Europe before arriving in London, etc., etc. Represents not just women in that regard, but also non-white peoples as well. And so this is an anti-slavery proto-feminist writer, and she like used her anonymity and this like conceit of coming from the mouth of a literal bird to like satirize Regency society. And I haven't read any of it. I would, if I had had more time and hadn't taken a nap this afternoon, and I say if I had more time, like I didn't have all week to have done this. So that's my bad. But like I would have read some of the primary source. But there is a professor at York St. John University who led a project to republish every known issue of the periodical in a forthcoming ebook. And so I haven't looked at that, but in the future, if I do, and there's anything particularly interesting in it, I will let you guys know. Okay, so it will be available to download on Sunday, August 4th. So that's exciting. Because like soon, yeah. It's exciting because like I have been inspired by Bridgerton to like want to write this ASMR series that's like this, you know, very philosophical and poetry oriented like lesbian romance ASMR series that I might want to turn into a book? Question mark? Where like the main characters are you know, dealing with gender, dealing with race, dealing with politics, dealing with all kinds of things that happen, but you know, there's obviously the love story is a big part too, because that's like what Regency stories are about. But yeah, so I will definitely want to read that because that'll be very interesting to get that context on what thinkers of the time who were women were saying and writing about. But basically, periodicals like this were circulated weekly, and the readers were primarily male and would go to coffee houses and whatever and like talk about philosophy and being smart and learned and whatever, and like talk about the town gossip, but in like a fashionable manly way as opposed to like a feminine and like gossipy way. So that's like the perspective as far as I understand it. But she was trying to bring like an outside perspective to those like coffee house talks. Like she wanted people to be thinking about what it means to be a woman, what it means to be different types of women. So like there is something she had written that was published in 1725 about a central character being a woman who pretends to be a prostitute so she can have premarital sex with someone she intends to marry, only to discover that a man would cheat on her is not so attractive after all. And like, so she's like writing commentaries about what it means to be a woman and all sorts of things like that. And like, I feel like this is falling flat a little because I haven't had the chance to read the primary sources, but that's because they're not all published yet, or republished, I suppose. Available on the internet. But basically, there is like a historical basis for Lady Whistledown, and that's really cool and really exciting. And I look forward to seeing if the publication is what I almost said. If the publication of these periodicals is something that will influence the next couple seasons of the show at all, and I'll be looking forward to see if that is the case. Bridgerton's kind of cool, but there's many ways it could improve. But I enjoy it as a show that is like supposed to be fun and sexy and just like, you know, good summer TV watching. And like, it does make an effort to have female characters take prominence, and it does make an effort to have a diverse cast. And so those are things that are cool. So.
It does seem to be improving, I will say.
And that's definitely like all of these characters. Well, with the okay, so and Edwina were introduced in season 2, and there are a few characters that are introduced in season 3, but like most of the core characters were introduced in season one, and so you see them grow and change over the seasons. And so there is like a development as time goes on. Like Penelope gets more confident, capable, like, and proud of her writing and stuff like that. And you know, things do change, and the relationship between Eloise and Penelope changes, and she gets a different friend, and you know, Colin becomes less of a dumbass but also still kind of a dumbass, and you know, things do happen. And one of the main characters who probably was in none of the AMVs is their mother, and she's kind of like, you know, the linchpin of the family. She's the one who's holding them all together, and she's very concerned with marrying off of all of her children because she's worried about getting old and not being able to take care of them. But you know, there's something about her coming to realize every season that like it's very important for each of these children every season to like make a love match, because she and her husband really did love each other. So that's something she has told them all and wants them all to be able to find. And so that's really refreshing, because in that day and age, that was not the primary reason why you got married. Love was not the reason. It was titles and land and money. So, or at least for this echelon of society. Do we want to pick the next topic?
Okay. Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt? Oh my goodness. What a fun president. How much do you know about Teddy Roosevelt?
Speak soft and carry a big stick.
All right, yeah.
That's it.
Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, this will be fun. That's a president that I love. Creator of the National Park System.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I forget how we're supposed to end this.
We kind of talk about what we're doing this week. What I'm doing this week is more streaming, like I always do. I don't think I have anything particularly planned for this week other than the usual ASMR on Friday. Hoping to do at least one Fansly stream every week, possibly two. I don't think Monday is a good day. I'm gonna have to pick a different day. You know, streaming every day on Twitch like I always do, putting out the ASMR on Friday. Currently working real hard on trying to do a deep dive of season 1 and 2 of Teen Wolf. We're about halfway through season 1. And yeah, that's really all there. Oh, my mouth is fixed. You might have noticed that throughout the video if you're watching this on the YouTube version. I finally was able to get my old CMO3 and gave it to my new artist, and she was able to copy paste everything in like 5 minutes. So my mouth does duck faces better now, and it always looks like I'm talking. When before, if my mouth wasn't super exaggeratedly big, my mouth would just kind of go. Whereas now, my top lip moves a lot because that's the contour of my face, and it works really well. I need a lot of mouth pucker physics in order for my mouth to work properly. So hopefully, if you're watching this on the video version, I looked a little bit more expressive than I have the last couple of weeks because my V bridger's been corrected. Finally. What are you doing this week?
Just writing ASMR. Thinking about things like drawing and doing commissions and trying to get shit done. Also, just, you know, I have jury duty this week, so that's interesting. I don't know. Mostly I don't have as much interesting like streamer stuff to talk about because I am not a full-time streamer. So.
But you don't have to talk about streaming stuff. You can talk about anything. Or you can just say it's gonna be a quiet week. That's okay too. Don't have to have a super exciting week every week.
Quiet week.
And that's good. All right. Well, this has been the Branching Out podcast. I'm Celine Whitetail. You can follow me literally everywhere on the internet. Just, I'm sure if you type in the name Celine Whitetail, you will find just about every single one of my socials. Like I said, I primarily stream on Twitch every day, 8 a.m. Come hang out with me there while I play games and chat about stuff sometimes.
Yep.
Yep.
And I'm Gull the Cactus.
There you go.
Sorry, I was just updating my notes document to have Teddy Roosevelt for episode 6 so that I have it ready for when I go back to this.
Understood.
I have been Gull the Cactus. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, all the places. Script Bin,
Ko-fi.
YouTube, Ko-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
As Gull the Cactus. You can find me writing ASMR scripts. You can find me thinking about drawing and sometimes drawing. And you can find me occasionally streaming. Lately, we have been playing Minecraft because there is a Cobblemon server that we have reintroduced to the world. So, very fun. This has been the Branching Out Podcast. Remember. Oh, wait, no, don't you do that part? You say this has been the Branching Out Podcast.
I did that at the top, but you forgot I did.
Fuck. This has been the Branching Out Podcast. Remember.
She did it again.
Keep learning.
Bye, everyone. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.